Let the sun shine upon this Lord of Cinder.
Hello everyone, my name is Wailed. Currently, if you're watching this, we are on the second and final part of my quest to collect everything in Dark Souls 1. I recommend you stop by the first part if you want to get caught up. But to help, here's a small recap. Last time, I found myself going from the Undead Burg all the way to the upper area of Londo, where I explored every corner and joined a few covenants. As well, I've covered the Painted World, all of Darkroot Forest, and even went to the bottom of the world at Ash Lake. But even then, my collection was far from complete. Before we get moving, I'd also like to ask a small favor. If you can, please stick around after the video for a short epilogue. I have a few questions about these collection quests, and I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments. So as I place the Lord Vessel, let's pick up with my hunt after the Lord Souls, and witness me go beyond even New Game Plus. For this is my quest to collect everything in Dark Souls 1, Part 2. So first up, I'll be heading down to the Catacombs, but before I go, I speak with the cleric Petrus, to purchase all his miracles and to be better prepared for the road ahead. While we're doing this, I'd like to clear up something that caused a bit of confusion in Part 1. Throughout this Dark Souls 1 project, and only this project, I used the soul duplication glitch. A glitch that allows me to amass a large number of souls in a fast and easy manner. I only use this to purchase items from merchants. I don't use it to level my character. Its sole purpose is simply to save time on the massive number of souls required for vendor purchases. Since this challenge already requires countless hours of farming rare drops, I figured this was one shortcut that would let me spend more time collecting and less time killing the same enemies for more souls. This is why you'll occasionally notice I'm carrying an outrageous number of souls. And the reason I never get rid of them is pretty simple. I just can't bring myself to throw them away. It doesn't sit right with me. They must be pried away from me first. With that little explanation out of the way, it's time to descend into the Catacombs. While I'm exploring, I'll be putting the Artorias sword to good use, due to it having the holy ability built in, allowing me to permanently put down skeletons without them being able to get back up. So let's start with me finding the Great Scythe in this befitting place, then I make my way deeper into the Catacombs where I find 3 Eyes of Death, which then leads me to this precarious scene. With me then grabbing the Darkmoon Seance Ring, which grants me an additional attunement slot for spells. I then take out this Necromancer, and to my surprise, with a 2% drop rate, I get a Skull Lantern, and that's pretty neat. I then pick up the miracle Tranquil Walk of Peace, which silences the character's walking sounds, along with the Lucerne. I then make my way down and fall through a hole, leading me to meet the only other person that likes the pickaxe. I give you Vamos the Blacksmith. And with the help of the new doorway he's installed, we can farm our next enemy. We all know it, we all love them. I give you the Bonewheel Skeletons. Yeah, I know no one's applauding. These roly-poly skeletons are the bane of all players' existence, but for me, they have something I want. With a 2% drop rate, the Bonewheel Skeletons can drop the Bonewheel Shield, which, as you can see, the shield is what they spin around on. How very strange. Also, that's what the item description says. See? Even the game agrees. So let's make things stranger. Talking to our new best friend Vamos, we can upgrade down the fire branch with the shield, now giving it split fire in physical damage, when I do the 2-hand spinning attack. Now I just need a test subject. Pinwheel! You'll do perfectly. As you can see with the Bonewheel Shield, we can easily outwheel and deal dear Pinwheel, tearing his health bar to shreds. Now let's see what mask I get. No, not again, don't summon him!
Hello!
Now I would go further, entering the Tomb of the Giants, but for plot reasons, I'm gonna say I'm scared of the dark. So now, let's make a brief detour back to the Darkmoon Tomb, because with the Darkmoon Seance Ring, we can do one more thing with it, and reveal a hidden fog wall behind this statue. I present to you all the Blades of the Darkmoon Covenant. And with the 10 souvenirs of reprisal, I said it right this time, that we collected in part 1, I'm rewarded with the Miracle Darkmoon Blade and Darkmoon Talisman, one of the best talismans available in the game. Now for some brief explanation, the Darkmoon Blade is a buff miracle that applies a good amount of magic damage. Now there is a catch. The miracle only works when I'm a member of the Darkmoon Covenant, and for those aware, this can lead to some complications later on. But later isn't now, so let's get back to work, shall we? Good news everyone, I found a light. With the use of the spell Cast Light, I'm given roughly 5 minutes per each cast, so I should be quick on my feet while I'm down here. First up, we have the giant skeletons, who should be on our farm list, with its 2% drop rate for the Marakumo. But luckily, later on, we can obtain it at a more guaranteed point, so stay tuned for that. I continue to move quickly forward and locate my main man Patches, and ask him for the expressway down this hole. Now at the bottom, I pick up a spare skull lantern for later use and make my way forward. Here I encounter Rhea of Thorlund. She tells me her assigned guard has gone hollow and she needs help getting out. So I go on to locate her dear allies and I give them a quick and swift end. May they rest now. But by talking with Rhea again, she will reward me with a miracle Replenish, which allows slow HP regeneration. Now before I make my way deeper, I quickly warp back all the way up to the Undead Parish for another detour. Here you'll find that Rhea has relocated to the Undead Church, where you'll find that she's become another vendor for miracles. And while she has a very nice selection, we mostly want one thing in particular: the miracle Wrath of the Gods, due to it being exclusively sold by her. But with this done, we can leave her fate up in the air and return to the tombs. Here, we'll be wandering around in the dark for a good bit. First, I drop off this ledge and find a hidden area that is home to the Covenant's Silver Serpent Ring, which boosts the amount of souls gained. Along this cliff path, I can find the effigy shield at the end of it. Fun fact, this shield was one of the winners of a Design a Shield contest for Dark Souls 1. I then dive into the giant coffin, where of course I find a bunch of giant skeletons who are guarding the giant divine ember. I then find 3 more Eyes of Death in this upper area, which brings my total count to 10, which means it's time for one more detour. Returning to the Catacombs, we can find this coffin and take a cozy little rest in it. Then, with the help of a skeleton, we're sealed in and find ourselves transported deeper into the Tomb of the Giants. Here, we have the Grave Lord's servants, another covenant to work with. Luckily, just for joining, we're given the Grave Lord's sword in the miracle Grave Lord Sword Dance. Now we can offer up our 10 Eyes of Death to reach rank 1. This then rewards us another miracle, Grave Lord Greatsword Dance, a more powerful version of the previous miracle mentioned. Now we can continue making our way closer to Nito. But first, I make myself human, because it's time for another invader. Here we have the Paladin with the best fit and the best name. I give you Paladin Leroy. And after I try not to knock him over the ledge, I can claim his items, that being the Grant, a large club weapon, and the Sanctus Shield. When it comes to these two, there's a lot I can say about them. First off, the Sanctus Shield is another one of the 3 winners of the Design a Shield contest. As well, it even comes with a small healing effect. See? Look right there. It's slowly healing. Now, before I talk about the Grant, let's make our way through the room of pinwheels and pick up the white slab before I fight Nito. To sum up the Grant, it's basically Nito Repellent, with it having high holy damage already built into it, and it even comes equipped with an AoE holy attack. Skadoosh! As you see, I'm tearing into Nito. Only problem is, the AoE eats up a lot of the durability of the weapon. So while it was fun while it lasted, I'm luckily able to finish up Nito and claim my first Lord Soul. Before we go, don't forget to grab Paladin Leroy's armor set, located here in the boss room. Now before we move on, we'll find my best friend Patches has moved up to Firelink, where he now sells a few unique bits and bobs. Most importantly, he exclusively has the Crescent Axe and the Cleric set. As well, we can purchase our missing masks of the mother and the child. So now we can have a complete family in our back pocket. Now that everything's done, let's see what Lord Soul is up next, shall we? Alright, let's start off the archives by just walking in, right past these armored boars. As I was saying, I make my way through the entrance and instantly get rewarded with a broken pendant from defeating this crystal golem. While making my way further, I easily handle these crystal hollows. I take the elevator up and encounter the Crystal Knight, where I'm able to parry him first and swiftly dispose of him. I then make my way into the room that prevents people from doing permadeath challenges and say hi to Seath. We of course then awaken in a cell with my loot goblin senses tingling. I instantly know that this manserpent here has the key out of here. So I do the smart thing and make my way towards the prototype bloodborne enemies, where I'm able to turn off that blasted alarm and I find the way out with the giant door key. I do check out this large cell located underneath. I slay these two peaceful creatures and claim the miracles Soothing Sunlight and Bountiful Sunlight, the only two spells that can heal allied summons. As well, I find Big Hat Logan locked up once again. Before I make my way out of this prison tower, I stop by this one cell that's kinda out of the way. Here, I find the Maiden set and the White Seance Ring. I believe this has something to do with Seath's crazy experiments, and while I could say more about it, go support our fellow lore people and find out more. They deserve all the love. To keep things moving along, I find myself amongst the archive's upper levels, where I find the spell Strong Magic Shield. I then make my way into a hidden back room, where I find a plethora of chests, so I'll keep this quick. First, I find the Chandler set, then the Crystal Ember, and finally the Giant Cell Key, which I assume can help me free Logan. So I quickly backtrack to the large cell and let Logan run free, so he can help himself to the archive's mass wealth and knowledge. At the same time, at the back of the cell, I locate another Firekeeper soul. Now before I talk to Logan about what new spells he's got, I decide to quickly farm the Chandlers for their 1% drop rate of the Chandler's Trident. I'll say I've never had a bad time farming for this weapon, but the fact that the Chandlers can teleport away gets old very quickly. So after this, I chat with Logan to calm myself down a bit, and I proceed to purchase everything he's got. And I mean everything. Here in the archives, Logan does sell a lot of crystal-based spells that are very powerful, such as the Crystal Soul Spear, and a favorite of mine, Crystal Magic Weapon. Now I find myself in the gardens of this area, and come across a Crystal Golem that I quickly crack open. And who do I find inside other than Sigmire? Oh wait, sorry, this is Sieglind, his daughter. It turns out she came here looking for her father, so I tell her what I know and she goes on her merry way. There's not much more I can do here except find the crystal armor set. So I make my way forward into what I believe is one of the coolest areas in the game, the Crystal Caves. I especially love how it has these invisible paths in the crystal clams, which I can easily take care of with my lightning spear. Now, as I enter the boss room, let's talk about the giant tail in the room. With Seath being a giant dragon, he of course has a tail cut available, and while it's not the worst thing to deal with, it's genuinely the most annoying. I mostly want to talk to the dev that said, hey, let's have it so when you go behind Seath to cut the tail, he has a move that he goes Buck Wild Wish, and the way I see it, this move will either one-shot you, or have you chugging your Estus like crazy. Don't even debate getting this tail in New Game Plus. It gets so much worse. Granted, you do get some help by using the crystal in here to temporarily stun him, and the range of a spear is always appreciated. But still, this can all be hit or miss. Thing is, the moment that tail gets cut off, it's like Thunderdome for me. Only one of us is walking out of here, and I'll see to it. Oh, look at that, it's his tail. I'm gonna mess with it for a bit. Anyway, now with Seath defeated, we can go back to Logan's questline. By returning to where he first encountered Seath, we'll find that he's gone completely mad. I mean, look at him. He's just casting spells that don't even exist. I can't just put him down. It would be dishonorable to this once great mage who's done great things for the sorcery world. In all seriousness, with the defeat of Big Hat Logan, he drops the spell White Dragon Breath, the Tin Crystal Catalyst, and his big hat. with this quest being the only way to get all 3. Also, the large magic ember is up here for some reason. We can return to where Logan was studying, and we can find the rest of his sage set and the catalyst he uses. Finally, I can pick up the last item here. Even though this is going to be very painful, by spinning the staircases between the 2 sides of the main hall, we can drop off and land. We can land on top of this bookcase and find the Avalon crossbow in this chest. I'd like to move on to the next area now. Okay, before we even head down to that half-baked developer rushed area, we've got some setup to do. First, I talked to our main man Laurentius to upgrade our Pyromancy Flame to at least above plus 10. While I'm at it, I do want to mention the Pyromancy Flame has a different look when it's in this state, so I thought I'd make a question out of it. Do you good people count it as 1 item or 2 if it has the same name but a different image? In my case, I count them as 2 separate things, mostly because they no longer stack and they look different. Also, on a deeper level, does this also apply to items that look the same but have different item descriptions? So, I thought I'd let y'all fight about it in the comments, and we'll see how this affects the future of my everything videos. Now, in Blighttown again, with the upgraded Pyromancy Flame, we can find a new merchant has appeared, Quilana. She's a Pyromancy teacher and is home to many new spells for us, with standouts such as the ever-popular Firestorm and the unique Undead Report. More importantly, she has a simple favor to ask of us, and that's for us to put down the ferocious boss, the Bed of Chaos, which was something that was going to happen either way. Now, we only have one more detour to take care of before we get going. Here, you'll find an illusionary wall below the second bell, and it's home to the Chaos Servants Covenant, which is made up of Ingi and the Fair Lady. Don't worry, she's blind, so it can't get awkward. By talking to her, or better yet, interacting with her, we can join the Covenant and receive great Chaos Fireball. As well, we can also hand over a whopping 30 humanity to then receive the Chaos Firestorm, and a little bonus I'll mention later. But for now, I need to go out and get some eggs. So I briefly talked to the store clerk, and within about 5 minutes, I get some eggs. Now this bad boy in my head is known as the Egg Parasite, and with it I can speak with Ingi and he'll have more to say. Mostly due to the fact I look like him now. Now you're going to be wondering, why have I done all this? And that's quite simple. Ingi here sells pyromancies, or more importantly, the exclusive spell Toxic Mist. A simple move that casts a toxic cloud that can cause toxic buildup and eventual toxic damage. Also, he has the Servant roster, which is a roster that is kept by Ingi as it keeps track of how much humanity each player has given to the Covenant. Finally, let's start traversing the Demon Ruins. By making my way across these cliffs, I can come across this altar that holds the Gold Hem Black Set. And while I could give a lore lesson about this being the Ceaseless Discharge's sister, I'm just gonna start running for my life. I can now demonstrate how to beat the Ceaseless Discharge with only a talisman. With its defeat, the lava covering the area below clears out, and we can traverse further. Now, I could make a joke about all these enemies just being copy and pasted, but currently I'm above making that joke. So, I know many people are familiar with wearing the Gold Hem set with the Fireplate ring to get this item, but I'd like to add one step further and rope in the Great Heal Excerpt and the Replenish Miracles for their regen, because I like being extra, and with all this done, I can claim the Chaos Ember. Now I become human once again, because say it with me now, it's time to fight another invader. As you can see, Knight Kirk has once again returned, and with this being his return appearance, I can explain the biggest problem he holds against us. Unlike all the other invaders, Kirk's drops are not guaranteed, even after encountering him all 3 times. His drops being the Barbed Sword and Barbed Shield, with a 33% drop rate. These could be held hostage from me for who knows how long. Due to me only having 3 chances in each new game, I could go all the way to New Game Plus 4 before I ever get any of the pieces. Everyone can disregard that info, I don't gotta worry about that now. Hey look, I found the large flame ember in a chest. Alright everyone, I'm gonna turn right and do the bonus that we got from the Chaos Servants. As you can see, when I become ranked 2 with them, we can open this door from the other side a lot earlier, giving me access to all these chaos bugs, which have a 3% drop rate for the sunlight metals. And for some reason, in addition, they have a 0.5% chance to drop the red titanite chunks. I don't know why, I just find it really odd. While I farm these metals, I do pick up the guaranteed sunlight maggot, and some of you must be wondering why I'm doing this right now, when I could just fight the fire sage and move on. Quite simply, I wanted the great lightning spear a bit earlier, and even then, I don't think any of you would disagree with me saving Solair's life. Am I correct? With my 10 sunlight metals collected, I can return to the sunlight altar and receive the great miracle, Great Lightning Spear, a more powerful lightning spear I can use. Now who wants to see the most effective way to humiliate the demon fire sage? The most waste of a space of a boss to ever exist. Quite simply, all you need is any Black Knight weapon of your choice, due to it dealing 20% increased damage against chaos demons, and more importantly, Vow of Silence. Silence here prevents all forms of spells being casted, including the Fire Sage's annoying explosion attack. Along with using the Black Knight weapon, we can quickly dispose of this sorry excuse where it drops the demon catalyst. I then make my way forward and get ready to fight an actually good boss, the Centipede Demon. I quickly move across the boss room into this small peninsula, where I have more space to work with. Here, my lightning spear can knock off one of the centipede's heads, and I can claim the orange charred ring. I then followed up by quickly defeating this demon. Upon making my way further, I can come across Solair, who's a bit glum. Granted, I don't blame him. The bed of chaos is coming up. With the charred ring, I can make my way through the lava and past the dragon butts to enter Lost Izalith. Here, the one enemy I weirdly can't hate is the Chaos Eaters. There's something so weirdly goofy about them. I then head over to this spot where the floor will break out from under me, leading me to once again encounter Sigmire, who's in another pickle. Now there's a lot I can say about this part of this questline, but I'll keep it brief. As you can see, Sigmire is to do battle with these Chaos Eaters. Now of course I need him alive, so he can give me the item reward he has. Now if we do fight the Chaos Eaters and his health is above 50% HP, he will live and move on to Ash Lake without giving me the reward. If he survives this encounter with less than 50% HP, he'll give me the item and then die shortly after. So instead, I pick a third option, and take them out from long range before we ever start the encounter, which leads to him giving me the speckled stone plate ring. It's kind of a combination of all the other plate rings into one. But by doing this, this will end his questline, but hey, at least he's alive. Also, while I'm down here in the basement, I can find a red titanite slab. I make my way back to the upper level and fight this Chaos Sister, where I claim the Izalith Catalyst, and then find Chaos Fire Whip in a chest over here. Finally, I can fight Kirk for a third and final time, where I wish him a goodbye and good riddance. And while I'm here, I can talk about the Titanite Catchpole. In part 1, I got this weapon way ahead of schedule, and I wanted to talk about it down here where it's more appropriate. As you see, the Catchpole has a wide sweep and long range for damage. The standout part, of course, is the two-hand attack that lets the player do the jump attack that the Titanite demons do, which is really cool. Now for this next part, I don't mean to bring down the mood, but it's time for the Bed of Chaos. And I mean this with no respect, but blah 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 blah, boom, it's defeated. Finally, I return to the Chaos Sisters, and find Kirk's armor set as my reward for fighting him all 3 times. And before I forget, I return to Quelana and receive my thanks from her, the Pyromancy Fire Tempest. And with that, I can declare the Demon Ruins complete. Okay, who's ready for our next pit stop? Alright, I think everyone's been waiting for me to journey below Firelink and take on the flooded area of New Londo. We can start by not going very far to find the S-Dock. Then I can break open this jar for some transient curses, which allow me to damage the ghost here. I then easily make my way into the ruins and show the ghost who's in charge, where I then pick up the parrying dagger, which has the biggest parrying window across all the weapons in the game, even more than the buckler. I then make my way to the roof where I can chat with the seal keeper, Ingward. He then goes on a rant about the Abyss and Artorias and that whole history lesson, but eventually he gives me the key to the seal, and I can purchase the most forgotten spell off of him, Resist Curse, which simply removes the curse buildup. Also, on the lower level, I can find the Curse Bite Ring, a ring that greatly increases curse resistance. Now this next part, y'all are gonna think I'm crazy, but just listen. On my way through the area, I use the miracle Homeward to warp back up to Firelink and stop my gameplay for the day. On my way back through, I decided to test my luck on the Banshees to see if I can get the elusive 1% drop rate for the Ghost Blade. And I got it. Where shortly then after, I got my first Jagged Ghost Blade. Now before everyone starts sitting up and making accusations, I'll at least explain what makes these two blades different and why there's probably an uproar down the comment section. First, we have the Jagged Ghost Blade, which has a 1% drop rate from the ghosts. Now the abundance of ghosts in New Londo allow many players to be aware of the item's existence. It's one of the few weapons that can hurt ghosts, and it comes with this cool charge attack that the ghost can do. Now this here is the Ghost Blade. It has all the abilities of its jagged sibling, even the cool lashing attack included. Now what makes this weapon so rare and hard to get is due to the enemy that drops it. Now a lot of you would say this here is a ghost enemy, and you're not fully wrong. This here is a Banshee, and while it looks and functions like a ghost, it is not. The Banshee uniquely looks more female and even holds a baby. Now the problem comes with the fact that only 2 of them spawn down here. We have one off to the side and one in the Ingward house. So when you compile it together, the low drop rate, the enemy count, and more importantly, the long walk from Firelink all the way back down here, this dagger becomes the worst thing to farm for in all of Dark Souls 1. To a point where people will not even believe it exists and get it mixed up with the Jagged Ghost Blade. I'll be honest, I was saving this whole spiel for a 10-hour farming session, but instead, here I am using it like this. And to think, I haven't even drained the area yet. So, I grabbed the composite bow from this exterior wall, and finally, I drained out this cursed city. I'll be honest, there's not much to find here in the lower parts of New Londo. First up is the very large ember that I can give to Andre and get my weapons up to plus 15. Additionally, we can now encounter the Dark Wraiths, and while they're pretty tough, a backstab solves everything. More importantly, I want their 1% drop rate for the Dark Hand. Is it me, or do you tend to just find this randomly? Even when you're just farming for chunks, I feel like you can just find this without having to work too hard. With that being said, we've gathered everything possible, meaning it's about time to talk about the Four Kings boss fight. Now, in part 1, I mentioned an obscure NPC summon by the name Beatrice the Witch. Do you want to see me do it again? For strange reasons, the Four Kings are the only Lord Soul boss that has an NPC summon available. Now while Beatrice was previously helpful when fighting the Moonlight Butterfly, her presence here boosts the Four Kings' health and damage, and she isn't that much help with her spells. All in all, she is never spoken of by players, simply because she makes a difficult boss fight even more difficult. But after dealing with the Four Kings in a Beatrice last world, I was able to take them down before it got out of hand. Now we only have one more thing to do. By taking the side door out back into the Valley of the Drakes, we can come across something that wasn't there before. For even stranger reasons, after defeating the Four Kings, it causes Beatrice's set, along with her catalyst, to spawn out here. I've always found it odd that this happens, because no other armor set does this with any of the bosses. But that's enough of me yapping. With the 4 Lord Souls finally beaten, it's time for me to head down to the Darkroot Basin and take on the most grueling part of this game for someone like me. It's time to face off against the DLC. Alright, it's time for the DLC. And first up, I've got to deal with the guard dog, the Sanctuary Guardian. I'll be honest, I've come a long way with this boss. I still remember how badly it destroyed me the first time I fought it. Did y'all know you don't have to block the roar attack and lose all your stamina? You can just get hit by it because it doesn't deal any HP damage. I wanted to mention this because hopefully it will help some of you the next time you play the DLC. Now with this said, I can chop off the Guardian's tail for the Guardian Tail Whip and quickly finish off this boss. With this, I can proceed forward into the Ulasil Sanctuary and have a chat with this mushroom, and prepare myself for what lies ahead. Here we have the Royal Woods, an area much brighter than its Darkroot counterpart. We'll find that the DLC was very much made with me in mind, due to the first 2 new enemies having something to drop for me. First, we have the Tree Ant Gardeners. Here, they can drop any of the moss colors available, but more importantly, they have a 1% drop rate for one of the goofiest weapons in Dark Souls 1. I give you the 4-pronged plow. Luckily, due to their vast abundance here, I was able to quickly get it after a few runbacks. Then, we move on to the Stone Guardians. These guys wield the Stone Great Axe, which they have a 2% drop rate for. I must warn, these guys are absolute units that will put their weapons to good work. But as always, I prevailed with time and claimed their weapon as well. Now I can finally talk about something they did a bit differently. Here we have the Guardian set, which instead of being found in one piece, has instead been scattered everywhere across the woods. Kinda like a treasure hunt, which is very different, but a lot of fun. First we find the gauntlets atop this staircase in this structure, and then after this, the leggings are in a corner of the forest. I then cross this bridge to briefly encounter Calamite, who I'll have much more to say about later. Then you can jump this gap to find the Guardian Helm. With finally, I can find the Guardian Armor on this cliff above the bridge where we saw Calamite. With everything gathered, I'd like to talk about the uniqueness of these new weapons. First, we have the Plow, and while it has the standard spear moveset, it does come with a wonderful charged attack where you flop on the ground after performing it. That's all there is, I just find it really funny. Secondly, we have the Axe, and while it has a standard Great Axe moveset, when you two-hand it and you slam it into the ground, you can pull it back up by ripping out the ground in a small AoE attack. But that's enough of the DLC buttering me up. Let's make it to the other side of the Royal Woods, and before I deal with the boss, I'd like to mention we have the obligatory Bloodborne reference, being the Marvelous Chester. Sadly, this is all I can say about him. He doesn't even sell me anything new or special. So let's move on to the man of the hour, Artorias. I believe many of us remember how we got absolutely mollywopped by him. I remember simply blocking all of his attacks in vain, eventually realizing I have to rely a lot more on rolling to survive. I don't have much more to say about this boss fight, except for simply appreciating how this boss has helped me grow ever since then. Let's move on, shall we? Now I enter the sinking city of Ulasil, being welcomed by the screams of its people. I make my way forward, dealing with the bloathead citizens, people who have been twisted by the abyss, only to then encounter the weirdest red phantom to ever invade, Marvelous Chester. For those that may not be aware, Chester is fightable as a red phantom, and while his motives are unknown, this is mostly a reference to what Bloodborne's combat would become. Along the way, I slay this mimic, and it drops me the very good carving, and after this, I fight another mimic that drops me the crest key that I can use for later. Also, the spell Dark Fog is on the floor here. I then make my way forward to encounter the most unique enemy of the DLC, the Chained Prisoner. He drops nothing special, unless you count chainmail, which really bothers me because he could have had a really weird weapon drop of some sort. It just feels like a missed opportunity, you know? Speaking of weird drops, let's look back at the bloated head creatures that roam this town. Here we have the bloated head citizen and the bloated head sorcerer, both of which having a 1% drop rate for their bloated heads, that you can then proceed to wear as a headpiece. Gnarly. I then take a break from farming to explore some side areas I haven't been to yet, locating the spell Dark Orb in a chest, and then having to use a light source to unveil a hidden room that holds a silver pendant, which for any wondering, it lets you deflect Manus' dark magic attacks, but is not mandatory to fight him. Now I don't know how to say this, but it seems I have finally met my match when it comes to farming for items. Back with the bloated sorcerers, I withheld the info that they also have another item they can drop, with an even lower 0.5 drop rate for the Ulasil catalyst that they use. I've spent 2 hours already farming for it, so I've decided I'll come back later after some time in the Abyss. I don't have much to say about the Abyss, let alone find many details to help describe it, so let's get this started. We start by finding the best spell in the game, Dark Bead, along with finding the Help Me carving and a new pyromancy, the Black Flame. More importantly, I can drop down to this lower level and follow the Forest Ghost of Alvina to eventually find a young Sith under attack by these humanities. After swiftly disposing of them, Sif does a little howl, and I can claim the cleansing shield. With this done, I've gathered everything I can in this area, so I once again farm for the Ulysseal Catalyst, and after another 2 hours, there is still nothing. Is it wrong to admit I'm about to completely lose it over a digital item? So, I take a break and decide to clear my head by going through this fog wall to obtain the purple Coward's Crystal. And then, using the crest key, I go to speak to Hawkeye Go. He sells some interesting things, including other carvings. He has the hello and thank you. As well, he sells his own special great arrows. We then had a small chat about Calamite, and after that, I felt like it was time for me to take on Manus. As we all know, Manus is the big bad of this DLC, and a worthy boss to hold the title. On my first attempt, I was doing pretty good, until I had a bad read, and next thing you know, he Manused all over me. But I have better news. This bloated sorcerer dropped something as I was making my way back to Manus, and guess what? It was another bloated head. See? See, I know I got y'all there for a second. You thought I was gonna say it's the Catalyst, but no. No, I'm not that lucky. Anyway, on my later attempts with Manus, things went much smoother, and with his eventual defeat, I was able to claim his soul. So, to celebrate being Manus, I went back to farming the bloated sorcerers, and finally I got the Ulysseal Catalyst. And let me tell you, this has been terrible. And here's the crazy part. Look at all the bloated heads I got from the citizens and the sorcerers. I got 14 heads of each variant before I even got this. I don't even know what the odds of this happening are. Do we have any mathematicians down in the comments? I would greatly appreciate the statistics of this. So, I finally have Go shoot down Calamite, and I can move on to something else. Something much worse. As we all know, Calamite is one of the toughest dragon fights in this game. And while you can quickly pick up on his moveset, he can still catch you off guard with his fast-paced attacks. Now first up, since he's a dragon, we have to handle the tail cut, a pretty simple task, if he will just sit still for even a second. What makes Calamite different, yet so difficult, is that it's not a matter of strategy or even brute forcing the tail cut. It just takes time and a lot of patience to get a good opening. Because next thing you know it, you're sitting here waiting for him to do one of the 3 attacks that give you an actual opening to take jabs at the tail. But eventually, the stars will align, and by cutting the tail, you get the Obsidian Blade, a very cool reward for putting up with all that nonsense. Now with the blade in my pocket, I can finally fight this boss, and due to already knowing the moveset, I can swiftly defeat Calamite. So, what comes after the DLC? Alright, before we head off to the Kiln, I have some loose ends I need to tie up. First off, we return to the asylum in search of an NPC, or better yet, a nest. Meet Snuggly, the disembodied voice of a crow who has a liking for making trades. By simply dropping the item she wants, then by exiting in and out of the game, the trade will then be completed. Now, while I could go into detail about all the different trades Snuggly has, I'm mostly concerned with 3 in particular. First up, we have the Skull Lantern being traded for the Ring of Fog. This ring grants the player a lower detection rate by giving them this see-through look. Now, this item does have a second way of being obtained, by doing work with the Forest Hunter Covenant by repelling 3 people trespassing upon the forest area. The second item you'll be trading for is the Sunlight Maggot for the Old Witch Ring. This ring gives you the greatest ability of them all, Guilt. This ring, when worn, allows you to speak with a fair lady, revealing that she is gravely ill and completely unaware of what happened to our dear sister. Finally, we have our third item for trade, and this one has a lot more weight behind it. By dropping the Soul of Manus, one of the hardest bosses in the game, we will receive a spell I know many people don't have, myself included, because it's the first time I've ever done this. I give you the Pursuer spell. And with that, I'm done trading with Snuggly. Now, I don't know how to sugarcoat this next part, but we've reached the point in the collectathon where friendship takes the back seat in the name of completion. Across the game, we have a handful of NPCs that will drop items exclusive to them and them alone, making these one-of-a-kind items many don't see. First, we have Shiva of the East, who drops the rare Mirakumo that I mentioned back in the Tomb of the Giants, along with the Iron Round Shield. This is then followed by defeating his ninja companion, who drops the Darkwood Grain Ring, a ring that grants a new special backflip when rolling. Now I head back into Darkroot Forest and start taking down the Forest Hunter Covenant one by one. I'm doing this because I'm looking for the Archer, who drops the Black Bow of Ferris and the Hat of Ferris. I move on to slay Rhea of Thurlund, and find that someone has beat me to it, taking the item I want along with it. So I move on to Petrus, the one who did the deed and the one that's going to give me what I want. With it, I claim the Ivory Talisman. Back in the DLC, I find Carrion mourning the loss of Artorias. Luckily, I can help with her reuniting with him. With her defeat, I claim the Dark Silver and Gold Tracers, along with the Lord's Blade set. I then thank Chester for being a marvelous Easter egg to Bloodborne, and claim the Chester set. I stop by to see Go, who gifts me the Great Bow for taking down Calamite, which makes what comes next a little awkward. When making Go hostile, you can keep things a lot easier by using the spell Hush to silence your sounds. This leads to Go having no clue where you are, because it turns out he's blind. So now I can simply just poke at him for a bit. Did he just elbow drop me? With the most painful fight yet, we can claim the Go set. Now for this next part, I didn't know where I would file Gwendolyn under in terms of areas, so I just waited for this section to handle him. I quickly blast through him using all the buffs I have available. And speaking of buffs, with Gwendolyn gone, my Dark Moon Blade miracle doesn't work anymore. Luckily, I can find its replacement, the Miracle Sunlight Blade. As well, we can locate the brass set in this room. Now we reach the most difficult people to put down. I ask the giant blacksmith to look away, as I claim the blacksmith giant hammer. I then pay Vamos a visit to claim the Hammer of Vamos and get a helm I wish I could use more often, the Royal Helm. And finally, I must part with Andre, the true MVP of this game. Best thing I can do is make it a quick end, allowing me to claim the blacksmith hammer. By getting under the bridge in Firelink, I can find Damal of Xana and finally buy what else he has to offer. After defeating select bosses, you'll find he sells their armor. Currently, I can buy the Iron Golem, Ornstein's, the Moonlight, and Artorias' armor sets. Thing is, we're not done with Domhall yet, but we'll need New Game Plus to continue with him. Now I must admit that the greatest threat to a collector isn't a lack of patience or bad RNG. Sometimes it's our own minds. I'll just be upfront and admit I forgot an item back in part 1, and some of you did point it out in the comments, so I do thank you. We return to the back entrance of Blytown to once again farm for the bloated barbarians. This back entrance is home specifically to the barbarians that wield the clubs. They only have a 2% drop rate for the weapon, the large club. I must say I'm rather impressed with myself for missing only one item. Granted, if I say this now, I'm going to jinx myself for the future. So I'm going to shut up by using this transition. Finally, after doing so much on this quest, I can place the souls into the Lord Vessel and open the way to the Kiln, the last area I must clean out. So I make my way forward, easily putting down any knights that get in my way. Here on this makeshift walkway, I can claim the Black Knight set. And finally, I can farm for the last enemy I need. Here, the Kiln is home to each type of Black Knight variant, with each knight having a 20% drop rate for the weapon they use. In order, I claimed the Black Knight Halberd at the end of the area, where I then claimed the Great Sword, which is then followed by the Great Axe. If anyone's wondering about the regular sword and shield, I claimed them back in earlier areas as documented in part 1. But with that said, I can officially say we've cleared out every area in the game, and collected every rare drop from all the enemies. meaning it's time for me to face off against Lord Gwyn in an epic battle. Or I can just parry him a few times. To think all Gwyn wanted was for the Age of Fire to continue. Granted, it seems my want for everything outweighed it. But we're not done yet, not even close. For we have much more to claim in New Game Plus and beyond. Alright, I'll be moving a lot faster through the new games, cause y'all don't need to hear me ranting about the same things twice over. I'll slow down when we approach the new items I'm grabbing though. Luckily, I don't have to go very far to find something new. And speaking of new, I might need some new hardware after seeing this. Here we can once again fight the Asylum Demon, but this time, instead of running away through the side door, we can hold our ground and quickly dispose of it, allowing us to claim the Demon Great Hammer, only available when beating the demon on the first encounter, instead of leaving the room. Now I can quickly blitz my way through the game, by ringing the lower bell first with the Master Key, and then ringing the upper bell. I can then quickly run through Sen's Fortress with the aid of Iron Tarkus, who handles the Iron Golem for me, allowing me entry to Anor Londo. Here we can slow down and talk about my second run-in with Ornstein and Smo. This time around, I'll be needing to beat Ornstein first, which I can easily handle by using the new anti-Ornstein weaponry the boys have been cooking up in the lab. It's called a Giant Flaming Stick. As for handling Smo, I simply rapidly poked him to his doom, letting me claim his soul for later use. With the return of my ability to warp, I head back to the Sunlight Altar to finish off some unfinished business. I rejoin the Warriors of Sunlight and hand in 10 new Sunlight medals that I secretly kept for this occasion. With this done, I can hand in the soul of Lord Gwyn and receive my most powerful miracle, the Sunlight Spear. With my work being fully done with this covenant, it leaves me with one more grueling task. Thank you, Solaire. It's always been a pleasure. Here I can claim the Sunlight Set, Sword, Shield, and Talisman. With that, we can now return to Domhall of Xena, who appears under the bridge once again after a certain point in the game. Here I can purchase the final armor sets available. First up being Smo set, only available after defeating him, and the Lord set, which the player will always be able to buy after every entry into New Game Plus. For this next part, I return to Darkroot Forest, where I kindly ask Sif for the Covenant of Artorias. I then make my way back down to New Londo, where I quickly unflood the area and have a hair-raising battle against the Four Kings. Except this time, we have a new guest here with us in the Abyss. I present to you the other immortal serpent, Darkstalker Koth. He does the same thing as Koth, you know, the Grand Speech of Destiny. We place the Lord Vessel, yada yada yada, nothing new. But this time, when I speak with him afterwards, it's revealed he's the leader of our final covenant, the Dark Wraiths, and luckily, they simply take humanity. Upon offering up 30 humanity, I am given the Red Eye Orb, and more importantly, the full Dark Set and the Dark Sword. So, as I make my way clearing out the rest of the Lord Souls and the DLC, as some viewers have asked, I thought I'd explain what equipment my character has been using. The armor set I wear is the Paladin set, which has some pretty good stats on it, along with some really strong curse resistance. Plus, I enjoy how it looks. As for my headpiece, it's the Crown of the Dark Sun, which boosts not only my magic damage, but more importantly, the damage my miracles do. When combined with a Ring of the Firstborn, my miracles start to deal a lot more damage. As for my weapons of choice, I don't necessarily have one I like to work with. As in New Game Plus, I started using different shields and weapons that would be more suited for the boss I'm fighting against. If I'm going to have everything, I may as well use all of it. But that's enough of me explaining everything, for my journey has once again brought me back to the DLC, with me fighting Manus once again. As you see, he hits like a semi-truck. So after getting tossed around a lot, I heed my own advice and toss on the Havel set. I mention this because I forgot how genuinely powerful this armor is. Manus is now doing almost half the damage he was originally doing, and I'm completely immovable. With this change of pace, I'm able to claim his soul once again. With this, I return back to the Kiln, where I work on my parrying skills with Gwyn and send him into oblivion. This time, I decided to get the second ending, the Dark Lord ending. You know, to shake things up a little. Well folks, this is the end. My final major hurdle is to create the boss weapons. So, I ring the bells, grab the large ember, and I can't forget to talk to Sif for a third time. All of this to prepare for my return to Anor Londo, where the giant blacksmith welcomes me. So I might as well explain how the making of a boss weapon works. All you need is the weapon to be at +10, and a soul of a boss. Also, only the giant blacksmith can perform the act of making boss weapons, hence why I'm here. So, let's see what I can make. With the Moonlight Butterfly, we have the Butterfly Horn and the Crystal Ring Shield. With Quelaag's Soul, we get the Fury Sword and the Chaos Blade. With the core of the Golem, we have the Dragonbone Fist and the Golem Axe. And with Ornstein and Smough, we can make their iconic Spear and Hammer. With the Soul of Sif, we can make a whopping 3 weapons, and the entire reason we have to go to New Game Plus so many times. Here we have the cursed and non-cursed Sword of Artorias, along with the Great Shield. With Gwendolyn's Soul, we can get the Darkmoon Bow and the Catalyst, which look pretty cool. From the Crossbreed, we can get her Life Hunt Scythe. With Gwyn's Soul, he gives us the Great Lord Greatsword, which I must say is a massive disappointment to this very day, because it doesn't even have the cool fire effect like the boss itself has. It just looks naked and barren, sitting there looking at us. With the Soul of Artorias, we can once again make his sword, but this time it has the cool moveset that he has. And finally, we have the Soul of Manus, allowing me to make the catalyst he wields, and it even comes with cool heavy slam action. And it's with a massive sigh of relief I can officially say we have all the weapons in Dark Souls. Now we only have one more thing to do, which is to go into New Game Plus one more time to pick up the souls that we used to make the boss weapons. I simply need to grab Priscilla, Gwendolyn, Sif, the Butterfly, and I can't forget Ornstein and Smough. Obviously, Gwyn's soul will come naturally, and am I forgetting anything by chance? Oh yeah, Manus. Okay, that hurt. Someone activate the transition. And with that, my quest is finally over. I've gathered every weapon, every shield, every armor set, every ring, every spell, and every key. Every item Dark Souls has to offer has finally been gathered onto one character. The journey has truly been something else. So many hours spent farming and scouring every corner of the world. It reminds me why I enjoy it so much. I'd like to thank everyone who's joined me on this journey, whether you've been here since part 1, or you just stopped by to see if I can actually pull it off. I truly appreciate you for coming along for the ride. So, with satisfaction in my heart, I declare this quest complete! Hello everyone, it's me, Wailed. I wanted to use this little time in the epilogue to personally thank everyone for supporting both part 1 and part 2 of this collection quest. Honestly, I'm beyond amazed at how many of you enjoyed part 1. I definitely wasn't expecting the amount of views, likes, and comments it received, so again, thank you so much. While I have you here, I wanted to talk a little about the future of these collection quests and hear what y'all think. First off, yes, I absolutely plan on covering the rest of the Souls games, so there's no need to worry there. That being said, expect some large gaps between each collection project. I really enjoy making these videos, but they take a tremendous amount of time and resources to put together. And I'd also like to keep making other challenge runs and other videos in between each one. I think taking that approach will keep these collection quests feeling special, while also making sure I don't burn myself out. Now, I do have one question for all of you regarding these collectathons. How should I handle items that don't carry over into New Game Plus? For example, in Dark Souls 1, I can collect all the different embers, but they disappear when I start the new game cycle. So, what do you think is the best approach to these types of items? Should I collect them once and simply mention them? Should I make sure I have them during the final new game cycle, so I end the game with them? Or should I exclude them from the collectathon altogether? I genuinely love to hear what you think, because your feedback will help shape how I approach these projects going forward. In the meantime, don't worry. I have plenty of challenge runs and other ideas I'm excited to work on before the next collection quest begins. So, until then, I've been Whaled, and I'll see you all next time.